So I want to challenge everybody today. I think design truly has the ability right now to disrupt. I think a lot of us are in our jobs, doing our thing, running our processes, but I think right now we have the ability to do so much more. And a lot of this is driven by where we are at this point in time. There is so much going on from the technology perspective. Things are moving so quickly, and the change around us, even over the last 5 years, is pretty impressive and radical. And it used to be people would make choices, personal choices about processes, technology, based on the list of features that it had. And that's just not the way anymore. People want experiences. And they want to know, how is this experience going to add to my life? If it's not going to make my life better, I don't want it. And it's not just consumers, it's also in the enterprise space. Companies who are making decisions about products to bring in-house, they're going, how is this going to add to my employee's life? If it's not, I don't want to bring it in. IT organizations have been burned by deploying these horrible products that people hate, whether it's to do their expense reports or book their travel. So there's a real mindset change going on, and we have the ability to take advantage of it. And I think this is part of the challenge here. We need to think big. Too often we've been focused here at the bottom. How do we make design really tactical? And that's critical, that's important, we have to do that. But we've got to get at the strategy level, and even more important, make design part of the mission, make it part of the vision of the company. And we really have the ability to go there. I mentioned design execution, and I think over the last decade we've been very focused on this. We've been very focused on how do we roll out a process that people can deploy, that can scale, that we can get our teams to use, and that's great. And I think we've really nailed this, but it's not enough. And if you spend 100% of your time just focused on process and execution, you're missing the opportunity. I really challenge you that we have to invest time and energy in thinking big. And how do we make design the critical thing that organizations go, without this, we cannot succeed. Another challenge I think we face is too often we're waiting for permission. We're waiting for the CEO, or we're waiting for the top executive in the company to go, design is important, come with me. And I don't think we can wait for that. In some cases that will happen, but the majority of us can't wait for that to happen because it's not going to happen. So we need to embody the philosophy in my mind of, instead of asking for permission, asking for forgiveness. Go out and try new things, experiment, go explore and do things in different parts of the business. And I think this is going to be critical to success. So I want to tell a little bit about my journey at Citrix. I've been at Citrix for 4 years now, and this is what I came on board to do. I saw a cool opportunity to join this company and make design part of the DNA. Because again, it's not just the process, it's about a culture change. It's about a mind shift, and you have to help your organization see the potential of what you do and how it can impact the business as a whole. So if I think about this, there are 3 buckets that I'll talk about. The first one is credible. You've got to make design credible in your organization. People get, okay, I see how tactically this can make a difference. You've got to make it relatable. So if you're going outside the box, maybe you've been doing design work just focused on product, and now you want to take it bigger and bring design to other parts of the business. You have to have those other parts of the business go, oh, okay, it's not just pixels and graphics. I get how this can have a difference for my function. And lastly, you need to make it visible. I think this is another one of those failure points where too often there are areas in the business where you have this great work going on, but people are not aware of it. And if they're not aware of it, it pretty well doesn't exist. So how do you make design and all the really great work that you're doing visible across the organization? So I'm going to talk a little bit about these and the experiences that I've had at Citrix, but during this 4-year journey, we've also spent a lot of time talking to other organizations who are trying to make design this big visionary thing that we can tackle and go after and have a huge impact. So the first one I mentioned is credible. And when I joined Citrix, the piece of the pie that I was going to tackle on day one was product. And that's where a lot of us, I'm sure, live in this room. You're focused on product and trying to create really great world-class products that people can use and love and adore. And this is what I inherited, these products. So as you can see, my job was pretty easy on day one. The bar was low. So in order to improve these, it didn't take too much for people to go, wow, this design stuff is having a huge impact. Look at our products now. I get it. This is important. Let's fuel this design resource function that we've created and make it have a greater impact across all our products. So it was really good to bring credibility to the table. We were able to work on end user products as well. The first screenshot was administrators and, how do we make them really successful? But how do we create a really rich experience for our end users who are using our product and still maintain the simplicity? So it was great to be able to tackle different populations of customers. So another thing that we've done in terms of credibility is not just looking at our own credibility in the projects that we have done, but it's pointing to the players in the outside world, outside of our little ecosystem, and going, look at these kinds of companies. They really get design. And one of the things that they share is they just don't focus on one little sliver of the organization. They don't just focus on the product or a process. They look at the whole ecosystem and say, if we're going to be successful, if we're going to be a design leader, we want to look at every single touch point a customer has and make those the best we can possibly make them. And when you point to these examples that people are familiar with these brands, they go, okay, I get it. All right, yeah, this design stuff, maybe it does have the ability to do more than I thought it did. We've also done a lot with engaging outside folks, whether it's me picking up the phone, having a conversation, and say, hey, what are you doing at your company? Or bringing them on site. Bringing them on site has been really, really valuable. Sharing their stories, whether it's, consumer packaged goods at Procter & Gamble, GE Healthcare, there are a whole variety of perspectives. And to bring them in and share them with your organization is incredibly valuable. It gives credibility to design. And these have been really valuable for individual contributors across the company who want to understand more about design and its impact, but it's also been incredibly helpful for executives. So, for example, I had Claudia Kochka, who ran the design organization at Procter & Gamble, come in and talk to our executive team and go, this is what design has the ability to do. And it's not just about flipping a switch, it's a journey. And let's take that journey together. So, leverage the community. It's really great to be at events like this where you can talk to other people of what they're doing, share stories, and bring them into your organization. Don't just go back and repeat them. You get real credibility by bringing those stories into your company. So how do you make design relatable? I think this is very core. Some of those things by making it credible, you make it a little bit more relatable, but if you want to go broad and you want to touch other parts of the business, how do you get them to go, oh, okay, this is more than product. There are other areas where we can really add value. And we've spent a lot of time on making everybody across our whole company, at Citrix we've got 8,000 employees, understand how design matters to them, how they can make a difference. And in fact, one of the areas where we've really focused is getting people to understand who is your customer. And immediately I would have different divisions. For example, human resources go, oh, well, we don't have a customer. We don't work with customers. And I go, you have one of the most important customers. Your customers are the employees. So every single person, you're there for a reason. You're delivering something. Who are you delivering that for? And how can you make that even better? How can you change what you're doing today and deliver something even better? And go talk to your customer. If it's a spreadsheet that you're delivering every week, is it effective? Is it adding value? So getting people to see that design is something that can have an impact both internally and externally was really powerful because so many people just thought, well, this isn't relevant to me because I don't work with customers. And it's get to the essence of who is your customer. Another thing that we did very early on to get people to understand and be able to relate to design was come up with a set of principles. And these have stood the test of time for us. It was 5 principles that I wanted to create that I thought would make everybody across the company go, okay, I can see how this is understandable for me. Now I get what this design stuff is about. So ours are make it simple, exhibit craftsmanship, inspire delight, deliver unique value, and focus on human goals. And as we started to pilot these in very early days, I'd bring them to different groups and say, hey, well, what do you think about these? You're in a support organization. Is this something you can wrap your mind around? And I'll never forget one of the folks we were piloting with said he brought them home to his wife and said, hey, we're investing in this design thing at Citrix. I think it's really cool. These are the principles we're focused on. And she said, oh, that's awesome, honey. Could you start to focus on these at home? So I thought, all right, we've nailed it. This is really relatable. You know, people are even seeing in their home lives how they could focus on these things to have a happier home life. So these are something that we always rally around and go back to and have teams understand you can't just do one or two of these things. You really need to do them all. You need to focus on all of them. And so having some kind of a foundation level understanding for folks to make design relatable is really important. I think too often people dive in and say, oh, we've created this 3-day class and we're going to get everybody to go to it. I think that's too aggressive. You want to start with some foundation pieces where people can start to get a little bit of the language and understand what you're talking about. I think storytelling is another thing that's really critical. You know, it's finding those stories that are meaningful in your organization. I talked about how you can always flip to the higher level brands and say, you know, how do we be like Tesla, or how do we be like, the Ritz-Carlton in creating those experiments? But dig a little deeper on some of those. And for us at Citrix, one of the stories that really helped people get the traction and understanding about the impact of design was Virgin America. So we have a large office in Santa Clara and a large office in Fort Lauderdale. And about 3 years ago, Virgin America came to town, and hallelujah, there was a direct flight between the two locations. And immediately everybody said, wow, I love Virgin America. It's so great. It's so much better than all the alternatives. And I'd say, well, why? Why do you love it? And they'd say, well, the planes are clean and the people are nice and it's got this cool little touch self-service interactive system, and when I go to the website it's really easy to check in online, and when you go to the airport they've got these cool white clean sleek counters and fresh flowers. And I said, it's exactly it. They're not just focused on one area of the business. They are trying to look at every aspect and saying, how can we be the best in all these areas? We're not just going to give better food and think that we're going to rise to the top. We're going to look at everything across the board and say we are going to be the best. And when people have had these experiences personally, they go, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. So again, relatable with stories, really powerful. Another cool thing that we've done, we've personally collaborated a lot with the D School at Stanford, but there are tons of cool outside organizations doing things. And one of the things in particular that's been really valuable is they do this exec boot camp for 3 days. And we've sent a lot of people to it. And I can't tell you, I just cannot tell you how valuable that has been, because they come back, they spend 3 days with people from different industries around the globe, all these cool top-notch design thinkers who are telling stories about the impact of design. And they come back and they're part of the organization, and I intentionally will send people from marketing, from HR, from support, from the services organization. They are now speaking the language to their part of the organization, so they're spreading the word for me about why this is important and why it's something that we want to invest in. So when you can find those outside partnerships, that's a really valuable thing. We've also invested tremendously in internal education. And this is something that does take time and effort. It means I need to make the conscious decision that I'm going to take away resources on execution, which I think is immediately where we all go, and say I'm going to spend some time on education because it's important, and getting people to understand the language and why we're investing in this is only going to help us succeed and be bigger and stronger with time. So lastly, visible. And as I mentioned, this is one of the most important things, because if you're doing all this great little work in a silo and think that people are just through osmosis going to know about it, it unfortunately just doesn't work that way. You really need to get that work out there, have people understand the impact that it's having to the business. So we, in fact, at Citrix have our own campaign. It's called Design Matters to Me. We roll everything under this umbrella, and it's become really, really familiar to folks. It's a catchphrase that people use, and anytime you can do that, it's a really positive thing. So when people are hearing about all these different things across the company, we can go, that's design. That rolls under the design arena. We do a whole variety of things. We've got a website that will focus on cool things that are happening in industry, but also, highlighting things that are happening within the business. And it's not just about a website. I mean, this is some of the real tactical stuff that adds a lot of value. So one of the things that I would do is I would go to different parts of the business and find out, well, what's their communication strategy? Do they have a newsletter? Do they have a quarterly meeting? What are their things? So I would insert design and what we're doing into their existing forums, as opposed to creating yet one more thing that people need to pay attention to. Insert it into what they've got going on and help create awareness that way. We've also done this really fantastic thing around design heroes. So I'll pick people who are outside of the design organization, who are really going above and beyond, who are really understanding how design can have an impact and are digging in and driving changes. And a lot of cases, there are these little organic things, sometimes little skunkwork projects that are going on across the business. And this is a cool way to elevate them company-wide. You know, we'll put it on our intranet site. I'll always find a really public forum to acknowledge this person and the work that they have done. In many cases, probably at least 35% of them, we've had our CEO give the award, so we'll always try and tie it into something, and that goes a long way. People go, holy cow, Mark Templeton gave this guy a cape and an iPad. How do I get that kind of acknowledgement? So it gets a lot of people talking and going, this design stuff is cool. How do I get to be part of it? We also do fun stuff. You know, we're about having fun, promoting things in really cool ways. You know, having design days, getting people to come in and see what we're doing. You know, doing little tech fairs. Whatever you can do to promote and create visibility, that's going to work within your organization. You have to be aware of the culture of your company and what's going to work. But this is important, and it's too often that this is the kind of stuff that people go, that's an awesome idea, but I just don't have time. I just don't have time. You have to make time. If you really want design to have an impact across the company, you need for people to know about it, and that means you got to invest time and energy in this. And one of the really nice outcomes from this is it's become viral. It means people are always talking about design and how do I get my executive to go to that design class? And I heard you're doing this class. Can you come out to North Carolina and do it? And as a result, it means the people who are very interested and get it, they're the ones that are coming to us. So we didn't want to put this out as some mandate, you know, that we will all be design thinkers. We wanted people to organically get it and start talking about it. And I think that's made a real difference. Rather than dictating, you know, you get people to understand the value and go, how can I get engaged? And another thing I would say that has been really, really valuable at Citrix is the boardroom. And this was one of the best pieces of advice that I received when I joined Citrix. My boss, who I worked for at the time, ran the largest segment of products, and he said, you know, Catherine, you know, I realize you're going around to all the product GMs and, you know, getting to know them and understanding what their needs are, but you need to spend time with the CEO and his directs, you know, giving them an understanding of why we're investing in this, why it's important, and the difference that it's creating for the business. Because when I go back in a year to fight for you for more headcount, more budget, I want them to nod their heads and go, oh yeah, I've seen what that team's doing. It's really great. Let's continue to invest in that. And you don't want to be scrambling at the 11th hour to do that. You want them to know all along the way what your priorities are and why this is important. And I can't speak to how important that's really been. So it's finding whoever your key stakeholders are in your business. They may not be all the way at the CEO level, but I think the higher you can go, the better to get people to go, this is great, this is really good, how do we apply it elsewhere? So a little update on some of the things, you know, that have outcomes of this journey that we've been on at Citrix. You know, by focusing and making it relatable, making it something that's visible and giving it credibility. So we continue to focus on products. It's probably the majority of what my team spends their day in and day out on, but it's now become a stronger focus. It's become a stronger priority. The general managers who own different products lines wouldn't consider working without us. I mean, right away they're like, Catherine, who's on this project? I need A, B, C, D, and E. You know, I need them in my staff meetings. They're very much considered virtual members because we're operating out of a centralized team. They're considered virtual critical members to the organization. So big success there. We've also had a fun opportunity to really drive many projects now in different parts of the business because they're getting the value of design. So our facilities team, really cool example. We've been overhauling our facilities around the globe, and they want to create new workplaces that are really meeting people's needs. So, for example, one of the selfish benefits for me is that we've created these fantastic design collaboration spaces now in 5 different spots around the globe and growing. And every employee benefits. Our facilities are much different, much more flexible, fun, inviting than they ever have been before. So this was a great cross-collaboration with facilities. We've been working with HR, again, getting them to understand that, yes, you have a customer, and we've been reinventing the new hire onboarding process. You get somebody who comes in, fresh on day one, and how do you set up the journey for them so they understand what they need to do, that you don't send them to IT, facilities, HR. They shouldn't have to do it. It should be a seamless experience, so they're excited to be there. You maintain that excitement, but they can also be effective and productive, and this really impacts the bottom line at the end of the day. We've been doing things for our customers. We recognize some of our products from a deployment perspective. We could make the experience even better for our customers by helping them understand what's the journey they're about to undergo. A lot of the products companies are doing a major technology switch. They're going from desktops to a virtual world, and they don't always know what that means. They know their CIO paid for this, but they're now in charge of the project, and Citrix is gone. So how can we help them get up to speed really quickly? So this has been a great collaboration with our services organization to help customers be wildly successful in the deployments of our projects. Lastly, education, a really fun example where we were in this mode of sending administrators off to a 5-day class. That's not what people want anymore. They want information in context. They want it real time. They want nuggets. So looking at education and things like the Khan Academy and go, how do we bring this to our products and our services and give our customers what they need? So some big transformations across the business. Another very cool secret weapon that I'm very lucky to have is our CEO, Mark Templeton, gets it. And he believes in it, and it is something that he wants to foster and see grow. But, right away I was very lucky that he thought this was important, but bringing the visibility to him throughout the past 4 years has been the critical thing. That he always has his eyes on, he knows the latest things that we're working on, and he himself can speak to them, at least at a high level. This was a huge win for us in that, 3 years ago when we launched our strategic imperatives, our CEO, Mark, was calling out, this needs to be a focus of the company. And it's even just if you can get your leaders at those key spot points. I mean, he's not rolling up his sleeves and doing this, but for them to plant the seeds for people is really critical. People go, wow, okay, I want to learn more about this, and how do I get engaged? So really make use of your leaders, and for us that's paid huge dividends. And of course, I mentioned in the beginning that it's not just about a team of people. In the intro, it's not just about headcount. And too often people will go, well, if you want me to cover all these products, it means I need 55 people, and otherwise I just can't do my work. If you can prove yourself in small ways and build the credibility, the visibility, the rest will come to you. It will come to you with time. People will go, I get this is important. I get it that it's a priority, and we're going to foster and feed this initiative. So you have to recognize that this will come, but too often people are just dead focused on that and will fold their arms and go, well, if you're not going to give me money and resources, then forget it. I just can't do it. And we have to get out of victim mode and start really driving change. So this is how I would say where we are at Citrix. And I think any organization that's really thriving in terms of design should see yourself this way, because we've planted really great roots. Design is thriving across the company, but there's still a lot more work to do. I mean, there's still a lot of care and feeding that we need to do to make sure it continues to thrive. As soon as you take your eye off the ball, that's where you get stagnant and the next thing comes along. So you always need to look at how can you improve, how can you make this thriving thing bigger, better, stronger. So with that, I'd just like to leave you with the challenge for you to go back to your desk tomorrow and think about how can you make design matter in your organization? How can you make it better, stronger, get out of tactical mode, and help us make design something that's very visionary for companies across the globe. So thank you.